Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Now, shortly we'll be starting the live show, which will have gone out prior to this, obviously, as this is pre-recorded. But if you did want to actually watch the live shows live, then you need to subscribe to my second channel, which is just called Nathan Oakley. There will be a link in the info box below this video. So for the time being, the live shows will be broadcast at the usual time, which is 2 p.m. UK time, on the second channel, and then these shows will go out at the usual Uncut and After Show time that would go out on my second channel at 8 p.m. UK time. So that's when you're watching this now on the Nathan Oakley 1980 channel. As I say, if you do want to watch the shows live at the usual 2 p.m. time in the UK, then subscribe to my second channel. Now, hopefully we're joined by a few people in both Discord and G+ panels, so I'll raise the mic on them and you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show. Are you in Discord as well, Righteous? Is everyone hustled off mute, or do I need to scurry and do that now?
I took some off mute.
Okay, there's a few in there that aren't. Hello, everyone in Discord, by the way.
Morning. How you doing, man?
Very good.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Light energy.
Hello.
Yes, it is. Hello. Good to have you.
A lot of people are wondering why your show was not on schedule yesterday.
Okay, so the live shows that we're doing as broadcasters in this particular corner of the internet are not showing to our audiences live. So I noticed it middle of last week. Anthony then pointed it out to me and confirmed that I need to look into it a little bit closer. So for the following, or for the rest of the week, I kept a close eye on it to see if that actually was the case, and it is. So as a direct result of that, this show now is going out later on the main channel. So this conversation now will be broadcast at 8 p.m. on Nathan Oakley 1980 as a premiering stream, rather than a live show at 2 p.m. And then in 20 minutes for us, live, actual, real time, will go live on the second channel. So it will be to a considerably limited audience, more so than even on the bigger channel. So I suspect it's so they have a greater degree of control while there's less people at YouTube. So people who are in a arena that's potentially going to deal with conspiracy, rather than shutting them down after the fact when they've already made the damage with their live shows. Much better to have that not necessarily reach as many people for the time being, and then anything that they can actually process, i.e. an upload, they can check to make sure it's not in any way detrimental before it goes out to the audience. So for the time being, the live show will just have to reach a limited audience on the second channel. On the plus side, I like to find a silver lining. It might grow my second channel, you never know. So it might be the case that people are like, oh no, I'm super keen to see the show at 2 p.m. or 6 a.m, depending on where you are in the States, 7 a.m. rather. But yeah, there are people who are up at 9 and 10 o'clock in the morning in the States and say, no, I do actually genuinely want to watch live, and I will seek your show out if I know where it is. So I've queued those people up. I've explained it yesterday on Quantum Eraser's channel, which suffered the same fate, a very, very limited live audience. And yeah, that's just, you've got to kind of roll with the punches when it comes to YouTube. I've been doing this a long time, and as long as you've got a reasonable finger on the pulse, you can see when things are happening around you that you have to react to. Now, if you ignore them, you die on your YouTube ass, so to speak. But as long as you can keep up with these things, it's not the worst thing I've faced in my YouTube career by any stretch. But still something that needs reacting to, and I've reacted to it. Hopefully my solution will still mean that the majority of people see the show.
I wonder if it might be beneficial to include a some sort of a disclaimer in the beginning so that the YouTube censorship algorithms don't ping your channel, such as, this video is for entertainment purposes only. It's covered by the freedom of speech and Sullivan-Acton reporting. This is for like-minded individuals to share ideas and.
But it's none of those things.
Yeah, things like
Sorry to be rude.
nature.
It isn't any of those. I don't consider my channel to be any of those things. So is it for entertainment purposes? No.
I know that there's a lot of people in the United States who put out YouTube videos and they're not meant for that, but so that the algorithms don't ping them, they put those. I don't know. It's just
no. Well, I mean, that's all well and good for those particular people. This channel's marked as education. We deal with very specific subjects that are qualifiable and verifiable, scientific in some instances. So this is an education channel. The information we use, for the most part, is rhetoric that is well established within the mainstream. For example, the second law of thermodynamics. When we detail why the sky cannot be a vacuum based on natural law, otherwise known as scientific law, that's education. There's no disclaimer required beyond this is education. I'm educating people why the sky is absolutely not a vacuum. Now, while there might be that disclaimer required for NASA's material, it absolutely is not required here. I'm not moaning at you. There are other people who will talk about conspiracy elements of the coronavirus, about shootings and all sorts of other things that just do not get covered on this channel because I'm not prepared to speculate about those things that I do not know anything about. Very fascinating for entertainment purposes. Sometimes I even consume them. But I see this as an education channel. And that it requires no disclaimers.
Yeah. True.
Well, I just thought of something. If not all flat Earth channels are getting this sort of algorithm change, then maybe it's something else.
No, YouTube informed us. In terms of their community guidelines being able to be monitored, they said that there may be certain things that will be not censored. They didn't use that terminology. I'd have to look up the email to find out exactly what phraseology they used, but they essentially said there are going to be things that aren't going to reach viewers. And at the time, I sort of thought, okay, we'll have to keep an eye on what that actually is. Now I know.
Exactly. Wait a second. There's more than one guideline.
They're saying
Be another variable we're not aware of.
I think they've disabled it because obviously the coronavirus and not a lot of people can who are working for YouTube can also access going into the office. So they did say that some of it's going to be shut down because they can't monitor it, just like Nathan just said.
Oh, that's a good point he actually made, because I noticed somebody, it was a Christian channel. It was Kara Helmlich. She only has like, I don't know, under 100 subscribers. And she started a live stream several times this one morning, and they kept getting auto shut down, like it was breaching the terms of service, but it looked like it was automated. And all she talked about was like the Bible, so nothing about the coronavirus or anything like that. So it was kind of odd that she was getting shut down.
Exactly. They've given us the disclaimers. They've sent us the letters. I'm aware of it. Prior to it happening, once it's happened, you tut and sigh, and then you have to do things about it. Hence, this. I mean, I don't know. It might be that I like to see the silver lining. There might be some advantages to doing the live show on a considerably smaller channel to a considerably smaller audience. Yay! Maybe there's some benefit to that. So, it's just one of those
I
things.
have a question.
Go on.
Okay. My question is, so if somebody were to go to your channel that you normally do your live stream for the time when it's live stream, does it just have the red live letters on there? It still stream?
Correct. The stream was still running, so the last live show still worked. It just didn't reach hardly any people.
Right, I'm saying, yeah, but if somebody actually goes to your channel, so notifications are turned off, or go to your channel and then you see a video and it doesn't go live, but
you have to seek out the video. You have to go to videos. So whereas it might have appeared before in your subscriptions feed that I'm live, No, it doesn't. So you have to actually go to my channel, go to videos, and then if you're in the videos column on the homepage of my channel, then it'll show me live, like I had to do for Arwin when I first spotted it. So I had to go to his channel. I knew he was live. He keeps his schedule like clockwork for me, 1 p.m. UK time daily. Arwin's live without I can't think of an example where he hasn't been. So when he wasn't, I'm like, all right, well, I've got to go and find him then. So I went and found him, and I'm like, okay, it begins.
Well, now
I did that yesterday. Try and find you, Nathan. I went to your videos, and it wasn't there at all. So there was no live video. It wasn't showing that you was live. It didn't show me anything. And I went through your videos as well, and it didn't come up. But today it popped up. Nathan's going live in 30 minutes. So today it popped up.
Well, you're talking about notifications.
Canada, because today I've done it. I've done it on this. Unless you're talking about the second channel.
I went on both. I checked both, and it wasn't showing up at all on either of them.
Yeah, yesterday there wasn't a live show, so I was figuring out what I was going to do about this. So after seeing Monday's live show, after 12 or 13 hours, get less than 800 views, I'm like, something's very wrong here. This show normally gets a couple of thousand views. Well, obviously that's not right. So then the following morning, I compared it to the Uncut and After show that had gone out on the second channel. So admittedly, it's a longer show, but to a much, much smaller audience, less than a third of the size. And it had more views, considerably more views, like a third more views in less time. So it got one at maybe 20 hours and one at about 12. And the one's got, I don't know, 1,400 views, and the other one's got 800, 900 views. And the one with 900 views has gone out live. Typically, where you get your most views from is going to be from a live stream as opposed to from a premiering stream. So that would be where I'd expect the view numbers to be higher, and they just weren't. So I'm like, well, it's a lot of effort to produce these shows. You know, it takes a lot of dedication, and you don't want them to reach a very, very limited audience. So if it's going to reach a limited audience, it might as well be the limited audience that I have to offer the live show to, which is the smaller second channel. I could go on to one of my ancillary channels. That's still an option depending on what happens after today's show. So I'll keep an eye on the stats after today. But, you know, I always say this and make the disclaimer, I've never tried to hide this. I am here to make a living. By the same token, I'm saying it's an education channel, but in the same way, anybody else who's educating somebody in any other subject still has to make a living. I'm in the same boat. So I have to keep a close eye on my statistics, because obviously it's make or break for me as an individual in terms of the earnings I make from the videos I produce. That's where I get my earnings from. So I have to keep a close eye on it. So that's why I've done it. Hopefully it will have a positive effect by having this show now go out on the main channel as a premiere. It just means that YouTube's algorithm, or whatever their machines that they have to go through the videos when they're processing them, can check every single word that's said, make sure it's all happy. And, you know, I'm in no way worried that anything I put out is anything untoward. As I said at the beginning of this conversation, I see the channel as an education channel. We're not speculating. We're going to very well-established educational material sources and showing them. The fact that it disagrees with the religious belief that's currently prevalent in the Western world is neither here nor there. It's still absolutely factually accurate in every instance. Do we occasionally get things wrong? Yeah. Do we have to disclaim that? Yeah. Like any outlet that's dealing with any piece of information ever. That's just the way people are. But, you know, like I say, I still want it to reach an audience. I still want it to be a successful channel. And therefore, you've got to flow with the times and do what is necessary to keep the majority of your audience in the loop with your material. And at the moment, that means letting YouTube go through the material prior to it reaching the audience, as opposed to letting it go out live and risking that I tell my audience something that they don't want my audience to hear.
Well, you deserve better, man. You do a great show. You do a great job. You deserve network television, but unfortunately, that's all corrupted. So this is what we got. Appreciate you, man.
Well, I said it when there was other, whatever they call them, media fakery in the conspiratard communities. And I remember saying it. I'm not saying I said so to anybody who's listening to this. That's not what I'm doing. I'm gloating. But the people who are spinning any particular narrative don't want the narrative that's being spun messed with while it's being spun. Don't mess with the magician while he's in the middle of the magic trick. And whenever it happened in previous days, channels just got shut down. Bye-bye channel. Because you've broken a community guideline that they don't want the breaking in terms of whatever you're covering that you shouldn't be covering. And a good close eye on the community guidelines to begin with will let you know that if you're going to do that, you're not going to do it successfully on YouTube. They make it clear in the guidelines what you can and can't do. So the risk of people saying, I don't care, my channel's basically disposable, so I'll just make another one if they take it down, and I'll tell the people how it is. It's much more important that people get the truth about SARS or Ebola or whatever else is in the media or whatever given time that they want to talk about it. And, the media outlets have got their story. They want the public to have their story, and that's just something you have to accept if you're going to be successful on this platform. Now, there's going to be people who sneer and go, you should be more concerned with the truth. Well, as I disclaimed earlier, this is an educational channel, and we're dealing with absolutely stuff that's set in stone that you can't contest. That's why we're successful in terms of our debate rhetoric when it comes to globe Earth versus flat Earth. Because we're not dealing with speculation and models and reification fallacies. We're dealing with matter-of-fact subjects. Education, in other words. Hello, 10th Man.
Hello, good morning, good morning.
Morning, 10th Man.
Just woke up to my country being more than $2 trillion in debt because of a fake flu. Yippee!
Woo! I'm sure they'll print some more.
What?
I'm sure they'll print some more.
Yeah, they'll print some more and put it on my back, though. That's the problem.
Don't worry about it.
More? No, I'm not. I'm just dovetailing your statement about how the Globers can't produce anything because they're in reification and fallacy. So is the governments of the world. That's all.
Fair enough.
Yeah, they make up stuff too as they go. MSU.
Only your grandchildren, though, are worried about this financial burden. You don't have to concern yourself with it.
Yeah, that's why I got a farm. That way they can just live off the land and let everybody else worry about the financial burdens. Until they come after the farm.
Going to be a very limited live audience today, I'm afraid, 10th Man, going out live on the second channel.
Oh, that's okay. I didn't get to finish Ballbusters yesterday. I had to go, but I'm so far behind on so many shows. But how did it end after the 1 hour mark? Do you well, I mean, you were there, so
it was mostly Coriolis effect. So for a solid hour and a half, we talked Coriolis, and then when everyone's kind of a bit drained and a bit worn out, Kiwi was like, right, on to the Black Swan, and he says, I'm going to do a limited version of it. And what he ended up doing was essentially the full, minus the special edition material. He did the whole thing right at the end. So everyone, and Betty's there going, gosh. Betty was like, we're sick of the Black Swan. And she's phrasing it that way, but I think she means is, we've had a long show, maybe covering the Black Swan isn't the best idea now. Whereas it came out like, we're sick of it. It's like, no, we're not sick of the Black Swan. The Black Swan's wonderful. And obviously John, selective hearing, just heard that and was like, right, well then, let's lay it on thick for the next half an hour.
Yeah, she was worn out. She was worn out.
But that's fine, because the audience love it. They want that. So at the end of the day, the fact that the panel are all like, yeah, we've just sat through a very prolonged, drawn-out debate about Coriolis effect. Now let's move on to Black Swan. It's kind of like, no, definitely keep it brief. Just, give us the 2 or 3 lines, maybe the modus tollens, and maybe a couple of explanations for what a horizon is, and then we'll talk about it, and then Bob's your uncle, we can end the show. But no, it's like, no, we've got to define we've got to do the full-on shebango. It is a Ballbusters, though, after all, so anyone who's come to that show that hasn't seen any of those shows, there's an absolute justification. I'm smiling while I'm saying it, because there's an absolute justification for it being there, and there's nothing wrong with any of that show. In fact, better for it. But by the same token, I was like, I want to get on fixing my Nintendo emulator.
Which one? Which Nintendo emulator?
Oh, I've spent months researching that. I'm so glad you asked with 3 minutes to go. So I've just downloaded RetroArch, and slightly dodgy, because obviously my wife's got all these games that she wants to play, and I looked into getting a cartridge reader to get them onto the computer. And you can do it. It's about $100, but takes quite a lot of know-how in terms of doing it. And I was like, how am I going to play these? I just want to play the cartridges on the PC. That was my aim. And so I watched a few reviewers and, like I say, did lots of research on emulators. And the conclusion I came to is that there's just ROMs that people have put together that you can just go and download. So I was like, oh, I'll just pick a couple and try them and see if any of them work. Clicked on literally the first one I tried, and it ended up being like a 13-hour download. Come back the following day, and it's given me everything in the library. I'm like, well, I don't want to pirate all these games. That's not my intention. Isn't to steal a load of games I haven't got. So I was like, well, what I'll do is I'll just select the ones that have actually, that I've got, and then put them into RetroArch. So I've only got the games that are actually, physical copies of games that have been paid for, rather than pirating games. I don't encourage anybody to go and do this and just steal games just because you can. Same with material. I'm just dead against it. Same with DVDs. Everything I've got a physical copy of it. Not only because it means you can actually, well, at least with discs, you can transfer them onto a different computer if you've got a physical copy, but that's the license. Anyway, copyright aside, I've got RetroArch. Woohoo! So all my old games and my wife's old games are there now to play on all the different formats laid out in their individual consoles, with maybe 20 or 30 games each on each of the consoles. And then a favourites list with all the different games across all the 4 different consoles. So very, very cool. RetroArch is, you just you download various different cores, which are essentially the different emulators for each game device, and then it just does everything for you.
Sure.
Very clever.
Wow, so you're new to this.
So is it? What system is it for? Are the all Nintendo systems, or like few old ones like NES, NES?
NES, Super NES, Nintendo 64, and Sega Mega Drive.
Okay.
Oh my god,
One of my
I want to
favorite
play my GoldenEye
SNES
again.
GoldenEye, yeah.
There's emulators up to PS2 era, last I checked, which was a while back.
Well, I didn't have that particular console's new to me. God, we're going to be late. I'll give it 30 more seconds. So I've not played N64. I've watched a lot of speedrunning. I like speedrunning. It's very relaxing to watch people grinding away on a game to try and get an extra second. But GoldenEye I've never played. My wife knows the N64 well. I have never played it. But like I say, I'm really excited to play on some of my wife's games.
I'll give you a good segue before
All I will
show
say is
Nathan.
GoldenEye, Nathan.
Yeah, I've got it. It's on the emulator. It's there. I'm ready to play GoldenEye. And World Is Not Enough.
Oh my god.
Hey Nathan, let me give you and Chocolate a good segue before the show. None of you guys would be helpful on my farm at the end of the world. All you guys would be doing is playing games.
Well, it was a present for my wife, actually.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of the people who support me on Patreon before we get on with a bit of housekeeping. So, massive shout out of appreciation to Abraham Mohammed, Adam, Adrian Quintana, Alistair Main, Blue Ridge Ranger, Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As the Earth, Chow Young Cat, Dank, Dave Rakia Gafford, David Robinson, David Wayne Foster, Daz Studio 68, Edwin Johnson, Erwin Jennisons, Felix Hung, Fireball X, Henrik 86, God Rockin, Joshua Balsimo, Kirsten Smith, Liam Nedrick, Life is Short, Maria Neelands, Matt, Missouri Bear, Nagara, Nathan Thompson, Naibai, Qatar Craig, Renee, Rob H, Sally Ballis, Silver Umbrella, Skeptic936, Texas Mike, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, The Real Gabster, Tina Baker, Tom Herkins, Unbelievable Productions, and Windrider. So a massive shout out of appreciation to all of you who support me on Patreon. Now we are joined in both G Plus and Discord by a whole bunch of people, including Chocolate Sane and 10th Man. So welcome one and all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Vietnam.
Good morning. Any signs of physical Earth curvature, formerly the horizon?
There's a black swan in my view, so I can't tell yet.
No signs of Earth curvature of any description?
Nah.
Would that be a hard
Not
edge?
from Coachella.
Mathematical.
Not from Coachella. What was that?
Coachella. Coachella.
Coachella.
Yeah, it's south of Palm Springs.
Fair enough. Any signs of axial rotation?
Only on my bicycle, not of the Earth-based variety.
Nope. Nothing. Nada.
Any evidence of the
Well, they say
distance to
there's
the
an
sun?
axis. Where is it?
Where, indeed. Where's the sun? Where's the distance? How far to the sun? Anybody?
I like Arwen's answer. It's over there.
Where
What
is
what
Alan?
is that again?
What is it? We ask how far to the sun, and he says it's just over there.
Yeah, because we don't know how far
Well,
it
it's
is.
as far as the east from the west.
All right.
It's a good answer because sometimes people will strawman us that we think the sun doesn't exist and things of that sort of stupid nature.
Oh, the sun
Yeah.
definitely exists. We just don't know how far it is, and we don't know the makeup.
Well, at the
No,
moment,
it's just.
go on.
I was just gonna say no. It's right over there. I agree with that. When it's above me in the sky, yeah, it's right there.
Guys, ever read the comments on the main show, live show, underneath when we normally do the debate on the main channel?
I do at times.
At the moment, there's a common strawman that's starting to build up, which is you shouldn't see a horizon on a flat Earth. In other words, this is a brainwashed Muppet Vision representative who's so used to using a side-on view in the curve calculator that doesn't account for perspective that they assert that were it to be uncurved, the curved line in the calculator, we wouldn't have a horizon at all. The only horizons are ones that are physical sphere edge obstructions in side-on view, according to them. Straightening out a line means you can see forever. There wouldn't be a horizon. You're like, wow, we are dealing with quite stupid people in some instances, many instances.
Right. So now they're denying diffraction, basically.
Basically, they're denying perspective in the truest sense. They're denying a vanishing point at all existing. There is no vanishing point. You should see forever.
Yeah, that's pure perspective denying. Absolutely.
Well, that's this. They have to make up things. With Coriolis is, well, that's powered flight. Has no bearing. It actually should help their Coriolis with powered flight because the plane helicopter could stay in the second reference frame longer. So that's a stupid comeback. But, the sheep buy it. And then when it comes to the horizon, they say, well, it would be there if there was no atmosphere. Yeah, which one of your scientists or pseudoscientists ever did that test? Nonsense.
Talking to
No
scientists.
Atmo day.
Talking to
No
scientists.
Atmo Day. When was that?
There is no Atmo day.
Oh man.
You mean the Globers didn't say let's take a breather or one of those phrases?
The sky vacuum just isn't effective enough. It doesn't obey the second law of thermodynamics, even when they need it to suck out all the atmosphere to see a geometric horizon. In spite of the fact that the definition of a geometric horizon is the visible location where the ground appears to meet the sky. Visible location. Apparent. Appears. Supposed to be able to see that. If it's not seen, it's not a horizon, right, Chocolate?
Exactly.
I've got a pun for the ballers before we go to the next housekeeping question. So Chocolate, if they ever come on the show and say there's no Atmo Day, just say that's a weak argument.
It's a weak argument.
Terrible. Terrible.
It might take him
my
a few
God.
months to figure it out.
So, even though it's a late segue, any scientific evidence of gravity?
Oh gosh.
What's gravity?
No idea. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Nope.
Well, if we see effects, then scientific approach would be to look for the effect of gravity, right? So it would have to be a cause.
Yeah, we're going to need to see the effect first.
Right. Well, the claimed effect is things dropping. They just claim it's all things because they don't specify. We all know the truth.
Yeah, things dropping that are in DC equilibrium to begin with. That's not really a
Or they
surprise.
cause
They're in
it,
DC
yeah.
equilibrium.
This damn helium balloon sucks. Every time I drop it, it goes up, man.
But the microphone, for example,
Or they'll say,
the simple magic trick that brainwashes the masses is somebody picking up a microphone and dropping it, for example. Well, they ignore the fact that the person's had to pick it up first, that their interaction with that microphone is the only thing that's caused it to drop, and but for the fact that they picked it up, it wouldn't be moving an inch. But people ignore that because they're told, look, ignore me picking it up. Look at this man juggle over here. Look at the waistcoat. Look at the waistcoat. Right, now I've got the mic in my hand. Look, drops. What's that you say? I had to pick it up first. Shh! That was gravity.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! Look at the waistcoat.
So
pressure it
basically,
exerts on a scale,
Say again, Travis.
right?
Say that again.
I said that's their second one they lean on is the pressure. There is weight and the pressure it exerts on a scale, any particular object, right?
Wow, wrong. Gas expands in all directions.
I wasn't talking about gas. I was
Downward?
talking about an
A
object.
downward force? That's weird though, because gas expands in all directions rapidly. So
I didn't
downward?
say gas pressure. I just said the pressure of an object. They lean on that for their gravity.
What's gravity?
Pressure. Putting something on a scale. The down pressure.
Full circle, Travis.
Weight of the object.
Exactly. We've come full circle.
So what's gravity again, Travis? Or was that what you asked us? I forget.
No, that's what they lean on too. They besides misdescribing the situation with the microphone and such, they also lean on the pressure that an object puts on a scale that weighs an object.
Yeah, they have to equivocate or use a false equivalent rather, which is to describe gas as having liquid-like behaviour, which is to say that it's using an explanation that describes something called hydrostatic equilibrium, detailed by Kosho last time he was on the show. And it is to assume that a gas is two things, static and incompressible, when describing it in those terms. Well, fluid-like gases, highly compressed, can behave with some liquid-like properties. That's not to say that a gas, which is absolutely compressible, is any way capable of being compared to something like liquid, which you can give a downward weight attribution, that's the word. So it's just a false equivalence fallacy being utilised to describe something that doesn't have bonds as being something that's bonded, i.e. using a false equivalence between gas and liquid by using the word fluid.
yeah, but Nathan, if you go through the magical mystery closet door of Globetard Narnia, there's time in the table.
Hold up.
How much time in that table now? Chocolate.
Depends how fast you measure it.
You gotta ask Brenda.
Depends how fast you measure it. That was her answer. Wait,
Speaking
Can I be heard now? Hello.
Yeah,
Am I
hello.
audible? Oh
What's
my
up,
god,
Eli?
thank you. It's only been 30 fucking minutes.
No need. Live audience, hello.
My
We
bad.
hear you,
My bad.
bro. You're good.
I actually did have a question about unorthodox.
Go ahead, Sam.
He said something about radar when he was talking about the horizon. Remember, you guys had a Al-Baruni video about it.
Yes.
What was he talking about? Radar? Did he mean we shot radar at the apparent objects in the distance?
You'd have to ask him. I'm not going to back it for him. Sorry, but it's an interesting
Oh,
question.
I thought y'all knew what he meant because he said radar also, and I was like, huh, okay, so you shoot radar waves at the horizon? What's going on?
Yeah,
Well,
you've
he
fallen
had
victim.
trouble
Okay.
distinguishing whether he had one or two horizons in the first place, so who knows what he was saying.
What you've fallen victim to, Sam, is what's called a baseless assertion fallacy.
So he's never provided evidence for the radar part?
No cowbell, just a baseless assertion.
No cowbell.
No, maybe he'll come along and
I'll
provide
have to
his
look that up.
claimed to be cowbell sometime in the future. But till then, hey Paul, we haven't had any cowbell for that one, I'm afraid.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Anybody who got anything to add? So I just want to round out some of these housekeeping questions. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics? Don't all go at once?
Nope.
No. Unless you count the seat of the pants.
Guesswork? No, that's not going to cut it. That's not a viable
Leaps
hypothesis.
of logic? No.
Yeah, there's a certain supposition that's suppositional element to a hypothesis, yes. But, you know, the idea being that you're going to go forward to validate that supposition or invalidate that supposition, that's the kind of construction part of a hypothesis. But guesswork, in isolation when described by, I can never say his name, you're better at it than me, Chocolate.
Michio Kaku.
Michio Kaku, when he describes their complete avoidance of the scientific method. I think the quote would probably sum this up better than my paraphrasing it, Chocolate?
Yeah, nobody in my field uses the scientific method. It's leaps of logic, seat of the pants. It's guesswork. Michio Kaku.
Yeah, would you accept
I think
peer-reviewed
I think he was
instead
Hold
of
on 1 second, 10th man.
hypothesis?
Go on, Travis.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over anybody. I was saying, would you accept peer-reviewed thoughts in lieu of scientific hypothesis?
No, definitely not.
Dang it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Michio Kaku was referencing a biology course because seat of the pants would involve 501 genes.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. 501 genes. Oh god. Somebody shoot me in the face.
God, he's such a
So,
slacker.
hey,
Come
by
on.
the way,
Right. Any evidence?
Nathan, next time you see Kosho.
Yeah, I'll
I'm
run
sorry, I thought you
it.
were
Was it
done with
kosher or was it unorthodox? Travis,
I don't know. I had something to say about Kosho,
go ahead.
but I'll wait.
Go ahead.
Yeah, what I was going to say is next time you see Kosho, ask him about his new complicated experiment. Apparently, it has to do with making a vacuum inside of a balloon.
Okay.
Unfortunately, he didn't elaborate on it.
What?
Yeah, maybe we'll get some cowbell for that. If he toddles by and you're not here, Travis, and I remember, I'll give him a tug. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating?
heard it.
Go on, Travis. Go on.
Oh yeah, I
What-
said
what
yeah.
did I-
Chocolate heard it.
What did I hear? I didn't hear what you said. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I was reading
that's
something.
okay. King Bullshit Kosho's experiment, a complicated experiment that involves basically creating a vacuum inside of a balloon.
Oh, the balloon. Yeah, he said some weird thing like I want to do an experiment with a balloon and a vacuum in a balloon, and somehow
see how fast
get
it
it
falls.
to like I couldn't even follow what the hell he was saying. It was nonsense.
That's
So,
because it falls under the realm of pop science.
I knew it. I knew it was coming. Shout out to Steve ALM for the super chat. Really appreciate your support. Thank you very much indeed. Right,
Come on, man.
Just
These
a
are
couple
good.
more housekeeping questions. We're nearly there. Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
nah. Black Swan.
Only in the globe reification model.
Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container for all of the fundamentalist religious zealots who believe that the sky is a vacuum without the gas we're breathing filling it? Gas pressure without a container? Anybody? Anybody at all?
Well, no, I mean,
Only on no-
container is in the definition
only on
of
no
gas
Atmo
pressure,
day.
so
Only on Horizon Day.
Only on Horizon Day. Where X marks the spot.
That's where you find the buried treasure, man.
There it was. It was only 15 feet to the left of me. I knew it.
Yeah, their Horizon is a pretty crazy thing when you think about it, isn't it? It's a single point marked with an X, when in reality, like the one on screen, it's a line that runs across the full image. Obviously, it might not necessarily run the full image. In this instance, there's a tree obscuring you. It brings me on to the geometric horizon, when you beg the question of a sphere, can be limited by topography, or you could put your hand in front of your face. There are things that can bring an obstruction closer. That's perfectly permissible on a geometric model, and it still permits the horizon to be a geometric horizon, regardless of it being obscured in the near foreground, creating a horizon like the one in this instance. This is not what would be claimed to be a geometric Earth curve obstruction horizon. It's just a horizon. But once it's breached, once it goes beyond the geometric limits, as in the Black Swan image, it's debunked as a geometric horizon, hence the justification from our opponents of how non-geometric, non-physical, apparent, whatever word they'd like to use on whatever day they're using it, horizon, rather than the geometric horizon necessitated by their model. So it's a checkmate argument. There's a few people who are in the I'll put our top 3 video. Dun, 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 dun. So check it out, my top 3 globe killers. You all chuckled along yesterday or Monday, I think it was. But in that video, there's a few people in the comments saying, no, water's a better argument. I'm like, water's a very fine argument. It is. But unless you've got every single justifiable qualification you can give for the argument, there's going to be a weasel comes along and picks it apart. For example, you say that large bodies of water, this is a paraphrase comment to be honest, large bodies of water would prove the earth is flat to you. And someone comes along and says, what about tides and swells? And I just put at rest, # afterwards as my comment. And how often do we use that argument? Well, not particularly often. We'll use it as a qualification. Not Babs, who's the guy? Bev does a really good job of it. But he's not using it necessarily as just a blanket statement. You know, water's flat, therefore Earth is flat. Which, you know, I can go with that. If someone put that out there, I'd back them. But it's water at rest. Well, you can find that in a lake in some instances. But on the whole, you're not going to find water at rest, especially when you're looking over the kind of vast distances that we're describing, when you're looking over open bodies of ocean. So it's not necessarily the best argument. That's why it didn't make the top 3. You know, I hung my hat on that argument for a number of years, like a lot of other people still do, and it's still a great argument. And it's useful when qualifying other arguments, like Bev does, when he's describing tangents to straight lines that haven't got curved surfaces underneath them by presupposition. That's his argument. And when he's describing what you're doing in actual physical terms with spirit levels, you know, that's the mechanic of that water that he's describing. But it's not as simple and blanket statement as some people put in the comment section of that top 3 video. There's another, I don't know if he's a Dell fan, some of the commenter was pointing out that one of the commenters has lost his wrench recently and was moaning and saying there wasn't enough substance in the top 3 video. I'm like, couldn't be any more substance. I qualified every single entry on that top 3 list. You know, Coriolis, there is no deviation. Now that might seem too concise for some people, but that's the bottom line of that argument. If Earth's turning, we're going to see things deviating, i.e. the plane, from our vantage point on the ground, is going to appear to take a curved path because Earth's turning underneath it. Now, I can elaborate and say, if Earth's turning underneath the plane, then a flight from Charlotte to LA will take an hour and a half. You know, I can elaborate on that further and say, because the constituent parts and the speeds involved, that the Earth turning underneath, I can elaborate as much as you like. But the constituent part of number 3 on that list, there should be a Coriolis effect. There isn't. That's as concise as you can make the argument. For a top 3 gag 2-minute video or 2-minute list with me singing over the top of it, you couldn't get much better than that, as far as I'm concerned, for a Coriolis debunking. There should be Coriolis, there isn't. Same goes for gas pressure without a container. I qualified the argument. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. Dun 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 dun. If that's too concise for you, then I don't know what a good argument is. An argument that you can rattle off in a conversation with someone as they pass you by, walking. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas would fill the space. And then you keep walking, you know. And if that doesn't make them scratch their head as they're walking past you in the street, it's just very well qualified. It's a concise argument. We've been arguing it for a long time. Now, me giving the full Modus Tollens rendition was done for comedic effect on that top 3. But ultimately speaking, it still fully qualified the argument within that top 3. Anybody who listens to that for the first time has got 3 absolutely watertight, concise arguments that they could rattle off with full qualification for the argument. So I was really chuffed with that top 3, considering it was done on the fly, in a moment of excitement, with Spurs there going, yeah, they don't like us being happy about this. We've got good arguments that we know what we're talking about with, and they don't like it. We're too happy about this.
That was a brilliant modus tollens that QE did, because he purposely put every horizon distance can be no more than, and then he based it on the observer's height in feet.
It's their geometry. So he peppers that with now, and when he makes the modus tollens argument now, he likes to cite things. He likes to actually back what he's saying, so it's not just making shit up university. Here's my citation. And Thomas, whatever his name is, what's the name of the
Andrew Thomas Young.
Andrew Thomas Young. He put that in originally. It could have been anything. It doesn't matter where the geometric measurements are referenced. It makes sod all difference. He's not the arbiter of geometry when it comes to Earth's sphericity. It's just a given reference. Now everyone went, of course, to do all the usual, here's the section you cited. Now, outside of your citation, there's all sorts of other crazy things that confirm my argument. Well, feel free to bring them along and cite them. Not that they ever will or ever do that. We never experience them actually citing things. But the fact that he did cite it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that Quantum Eraser or Andrew Thomas Young have the main skinny, they're the arbiter of the geometric calculations. It's the standard model. Even Mick West, who's a similar deal, right? He's producing an Earth curve calculation based on what? Well, the standard model and its assumption of an R value. He made that claim when he came here. So they're all basing it on the same geometry. The fact that it's referenced by somebody who's just somebody qualified in the field of talking shit about globes. That's why he used him. Not because suddenly he's the only person that can be referenced in this regard. It's just simple geometry. The geometry they believe in.
He's got it. I like I said, I've been reading a lot of his work. He's got an extensive bibliography where Andrew Thomas Young does, and he cites many other globers who have that view of the Earth. So he even cites his sources for their reification globe model. Doesn't mean he's right. We're just using him as well as his resources to have something that you could have right next to the black swan and say can't be. It's just not possible. So these are, double speaking terms. He might say some good things in other places, but hey, that's what you use a hostile witness for, right?
I took the words out of my mouth. Secretly, I'm chuckling here because I know damn well that QE loves a hostile witness. He likes to antagonize. He doesn't poke the bear in the same way as Sleeping Warrior. He does it in a much more subtle way. I love it because it pokes the bear. He does it with the geometric horizon in terms of wanting to argue about how they qualify the refractive effects. And it's like, hold on though, as soon as you're into describing this, you're not detailing a geometric horizon anymore. Now, at the time, I didn't quite understand. Quantum Eraser is just a lot smarter than I am. He's just thinking a lot further ahead. He's getting them to disclaim our argument. Well, it's not a geometric horizon. Here's how it's refracted. Well, how is it refracted? What's the refractive effect? Well, it's this effect, or I don't care what the effect is. But then they're well into the grave of arguing about how it's not geometric. You know, it's full on proving out the one black swan's all you need, because they're now telling us how non-geometric it is. It's like, at the start, we're saying, no, you only need this one example to break geometry, to never be mended again. And they're like, nah, but it's dead swan, doesn't matter, it's not important, head in the sand. And you're like, hold on, why are all your counterparts telling the world about how non-geometric the horizon is? Well, because you only need one black swan, and your side's now fighting our cause for us.
Yeah, don't worry about that. Nothing's changed. Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here. We just no longer have a physical geometric sphere edge for a horizon like the one in our model marked with an X and labelled horizon. We never see the geometric horizon.
Why would you expect to see it? Because it would be called a horizon, which would be something that you would see. Why would you have a horizon you don't see?
I'm going to start saying it back to him.
Like, every time they say that, it's the horizon you don't see. What?
Don't
How does that make it? Go ahead.
Chocolate. Don't they remember Bill Nye with that boat going over?
I remember that. I remember that. Maybe
we don't have to qualify it. There's plenty of examples of them claiming that boats and islands and whatever else, skylines, are hidden behind a physical geometric sphere edge horizon called their geometric physical horizon. So we don't have to look far to find the examples. It's still their current rhetoric, bearing in mind we're only dealing with the fundies at trench level. How far this permeates out is dependent on how fast this plague permeates throughout society. But ultimately speaking, globe geometry is dead. Now, we all know it, and we're all having a good laugh and a party about it. You know, that's why that top 3 ended up getting put out. We're all in high spirits, right? But ultimately speaking, as it was declared at the time, you only need one black swan to completely debunk a geometric assertion to the point where they're justifying how non-geometric the horizon is. You know, it's the death throes of their model. It's no longer tenable. It's the end. There is no arguing and assuming R anymore. So it's a very, very, very bad day when that black swan was first introduced to the populace. Very, very bad day.
That geometric horizon used to be considered the curve, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what they would used to say, right? The boats are going over the curve, right? And now they're saying we don't see the geometric horizon. So in other words, we don't see the curve, is what they're saying.
Yeah, just say it back to them, but with a slightly different tone. I'll give you an example. Well, we'll rewind a few minutes and we get to the bit where you don't see the geometric horizon. And then you repeat back to them, that's right, you don't see the geometric horizon. And then if this continues, it's the horizon you don't see. Yeah, it's the horizon in your model that we don't see. That's right. Welcome to Flat Earth.
Yeah, and I was going to say, too, that I don't know how close, I know you guys probably pay attention a little bit, at least, to what they're saying, like, on Google for as far as, like, the radius and the circumference of the Earth. But I should have been doing this a long time ago. It was taking pictures of what they're stating, because I know for sure, at least a couple weeks ago, they were saying 3959 was the radius. Now, if you look, it's 3958. And it's just weird to me that it's like they keep changing the numbers. They hold two different beliefs. They call it a globe, but they say it's an oblate spheroid. And then when they tell us the math, they say, oh, it's an approximation. It's not exact. Well, it's like, well, you can't have all of these things happening at once because they're holding so many beliefs all at the same time that contradict each other.
Yeah, it's painful. Yeah. It's painful. Very painful for our opponents, especially at this level.
Yeah, there are places you'll see it says 3958.8, right? And other places it'll say 3963. Like, which one is it? You know what I'm saying? And how did you establish that?
No, that's in line with their rhetoric. No. That's in line with their rhetoric. They've got an oblate spheroid. You know, it's not perfect. So therefore, the slight discrepancies are going to make slight sense because it is an oblate spheroid in their rhetoric. So yeah, you're going to get slightly different. it's going to be slightly varied, their claimed radius, because you could only have one radius if it was an absolutely perfect sphere. So I don't take issue necessarily with there being slightly different, a mile out here and there. That makes sod all difference. The problem is still going to be the black swan, and the problem is still going to be their current declaration that they don't have a physical geometric sphere edge for a horizon, because they need one, and we've only got one, and it's not the one we see. The one we see that we don't see is going to be seen in their model, though. We just don't see that in reality. And they're telling us that currently, not realising how tight they're pulling their own noose.
Well, at best, I guess what we've done here is disprove the radius.
At best.
At best.
At best, we've imploded the entire heliocentric geometry. At best.
It's just strange how their numbers keep going up and down as if like the globe is just changing all the time. It's so weird. It's like, is it flexing? Is like, how does Google know when to change the numbers to be exactly accurate, like how they need it to be at that certain time? It's just
I can answer that. It doesn't exist in physical reality. So when I detail how the philosophers of ages gone by used an idea of heliocentrism to better understand the patterns of the lights in the sky, but at no stage in my assumption and this example did they reify that model into the ground beneath their feet. So at no stage do they assert that it's going to be an actual physical sphere that they're standing on when they use that model to understand a pattern in the sky. But upon utilising that model and seeing where there are minor discrepancies, things don't work quite perfectly, you can adjust the model in terms of how it describes the world, i.e. you can change a value that, if reified, translates into a rock physically growing and increasing its mass by a substantial amount. Well, that isn't a problem in a mathematical model. You can change anything you like. You can have the stars be as far or as close as you choose in a model. And it doesn't make any difference to the reality you face on a day-to-day basis, because the model isn't reality. That's reification. So how do you change radius when it's only when you're of the mindset that, that radius is something that's actually in existence, and changing it means the rock's grown. How is that possible? Well, it isn't in physical actualization, because the only way to describe it in those terms is to reify the model as though you actually stood on a sphere. And you're not. It's a model. So can you change the value of R in a model? Yeah! But if you to reify it, then no! It's got to be fixed. It's a rock. But we don't reify that model, so we understand how they can change it if they choose to. Because it's just a model. That's why it's changing. If it was real, absolutely, it would be set in literal stone. Because it's supposed to be a stone-shaped rock. And flying through a sky vacuum with gas attached to it, of course. Right? What's wrong with that? Well, none of it works. But, that doesn't mean that you can't change R mathematically. In reality, in reification, no, you can't. If Earth's actually a rock, which it isn't, then you can't change R.
Well, we don't necessarily have to work on the really is level, so.
Exactly. So in the pre-show, we were talking about this show's tag. It's tagged as education. We're talking about stuff on the really is level. Now, do I need to put a disclaimer that this is for entertainment purposes? Hell no! Should Michio Kaku say, this is for entertainment and philosophy purposes? Yeah, he should. Will he? No. But will he disclaim during interview that it's guesswork? Well, we're not dealing in guesswork here. Yeah, the second law of thermodynamics is actually a natural law. Not guesswork. Fact. Reality. Nature. That's what we deal in. So no disclaimers needed. But I believe all the people who are talking about their models as though they're physical existences, maybe they would claim, if ever challenged, no, I made it clear, this is a model. Now the people who listened to that and thought that was the world they lived in, well, that's their problem. They're peasants. Intellectually inferior. I made it clear it's a model. The heliocentric model is a model. Well, if you wanted to choose and make it into an actual sphere beneath your feet, that's absurd. We all knew that. That's what you'll get if you ever challenge it. So don't worry about, you've been lied to. You lied to yourself when you heard the word model and thought it meant real. It isn't.
Yeah, and it's almost like You know how people go to stores and they, especially, I know I'm not to be rude, but older people, they'll be like, they'll notice a small difference as like a price change of something by like 20 cents. And it's like, if you take that, that same like, oh, hey, well, I just bought this yesterday. It was like $2.59. And now today it's $2.79. They're like, oh yeah, sorry, we forgot to change the price. It's like, if you take that and apply that to somebody who believed in the ball and they go and look at that on Google, it's just weird that they wouldn't actually look at that as if like, oh yeah, well, they're just changing the numbers, but it must be true because it's science. They know what they're doing. It's just like, well, no, how can you can't just change numbers around daily. Like it really doesn't make any sense. And they're not even showing you how it's changing either. They're just telling you.
Yep. Watch or read 1984. Now lay it all out. What's going on? They describe it in terms of the doublespeak of chocolate prices in 1984. So they tell you that they're going to increase the ration of chocolate and then they decrease the chocolate sizes. It's like, wow.
Well, they couldn't get everything right when they came up with the model, so they got to change things as new knowledge comes about. Oh well, it won't work if it's this, so then they change it.
Right.
Because it's a model.
Exactly. So let's say there's a radical change to the model. Meanwhile, what's that you say? A Snickers has gone up 3 pence and is now 25 grams. That's an outrage!
Oh yeah, that was my point. Just realizing that it was a scam. Sorry, I didn't finish. But yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, exactly.
Right on. It's the same with a lot of mentality when people are dealing with finance. So back in the day, I used to be an estate agent, and people would be so quick to relinquish several £1,000s, in some instances tens of thousands of pounds at the drop of a hat. But as for buying a tin of paint and running it over with a brush, hell no, that's going to actually cost cash. Penny smart and pound stupid, that's what I used to call it. People would be extremely savvy when it came to the nitpicking of taking off bloody lighting fixtures from the home when they left the house, but they'd have lobbed £20,000 off the asking price to get it sold. You're like, you're nuts. But people are like that. They pay attention to the small things and not the big things. So you can change a massive detail in terms of the actual reality that they're faced with. And that's actually fairly strange to say it, but fairly easy to do. But you change the price of a Mars bar, and believe me, people will notice that. Was it Hitler that said about making the lie big? Make it massive, or was it Stalin? I forget.
Yeah, I think I know what you're saying, but I can't remember it either. But
I can't remember the exact quote, but essentially, if you can make the lie super massive, then people will buy it far more easily than a subtle lie.
Go ahead. The bigger the lie,
the more likely people are to believe it.
Say that again, Travis.
The bigger the lie is, the more likely people are to believe it.
Right. But like any lie, it needs maintenance. And the heliocentric lie, I think the maintenance has been done by the people themselves in many instances. Hardly anybody that you can get to at the tail end of something that you would perceive as a piece of globe propaganda are actually in any way complicit or guilty of any sort of deceit. So back in the day, this is going back 2 years, maybe a bit further, Russian Vids put out a little video, and it was about a very low budget film, and there was a scene in it where the classroom that was in the scene had got a blackboard behind the scene with a grid and a flat earth map, an azimuth equidistant projection. And Russian Vids was like, look, truth in plain sight. There's a flat earth map on the board. It's just in the middle of the scene. There's no point in it being here. And the producer got in touch with him and said, I'd like to, tell you about how that actually came to pass. And he explained that the hidden hand came along and paid him to let him use their set if they paid all the fees to just have access to it. And what they produced was those chalk drawings. And he had no further explanation beyond it. And that was his explanation. So the dead end, the producer himself, other than describing someone who paid for the set, these I don't know, cloaked individuals, if you want to call them that. He wasn't complicit in anything. He just wanted to get the fees for that particular shoot done on that particular day, and they offered to pay all the expenses, so they did. And what did they get in return? Well, something on the chalkboard. He doesn't care. He just films his film, makes his way on to the next scene. Hey, Quantum Eraser, good to have you.
Yeah, good morning. It's Joseph Goebbels.
Oh, it was Goebbels?
Yeah.
Can you remember the exact quote?
Yep. If you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I missed the keep repeating it part.
Say it one more time.
If you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it.
That was for Travis to keep repeating it, by the way.
If you tell a lie big enough.
Someone switch him off.
I love you, Gooey. I love you, Gooey.
Press the Quantum Eraser reset button. Call IBM, he's gone wrong again.
You just... Oh, boy.
Everyone always wondered what happened to Deep Blue. Well, now you know.
Oh, my gosh. That was brilliant.
He's not running the Cathay Pacific check-in desk at all. He's sat on Flat Earth Debate. Been renamed Quantum Eraser.
It's the Flat Earth Watson.
Watson, right. Watson doesn't get talked about very much. Very, very fascinating piece of technology, Watson. I remember hearing about it about 6 years ago and going, wow, that's going to change the world, that is. No one ever talks about it. I'm sure it's making very, very important decisions in business. Maybe we're experiencing one of them now. Who knows?
Wow.
So, this show's going out live on the second channel, Quantum Eraser. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass to find, man.
Yeah, I bet 130 people have actually dedicated their efforts to finding the live show, given that it's not actually been publicised to the limited audience, or more limited audience, that the Nathan Oakley channel has. But it'll go out as a premiere after YouTube have scanned it thoroughly and checked it and made sure there's nothing that they don't like in there, and then it'll reach a reasonably decent-sized audience later on this evening. Hello to everyone watching this in the Nathan Oakley 1980 channel.
It's a sorry state of affairs, man.
It did tell us, we discussed it on the pre-show, but they did tell us, as I mentioned to you on your show yesterday, you know, they sent us a kind of announcement that there would be things that would be censored from view, and they are. So I can only hope that they return the ability to let my audience know when I'm broadcasting, or when they return to their desks. Hopefully, we can only keep our fingers crossed in that regards. So often is the case that when things get switched off, they don't get switched back on again.
Wait, what happened? There's a new...
You were there, Chocolate, you were there.
There's a new censorship on top of all the old censorship? What? What's going on?
You were there on Quantum Eraser's show yesterday when we went through this. I know you joined late, but we still did go through it with you again. I'll just go through it again, Chocolate. So this show, for the people watching, thank you very much to the 130 people who've actually made their way to this live show. When it was going out on the Nathan Oakley 1980 channel live, it was only reaching a very limited audience. Same was the case with all of Arwin shows and Quantum Eraser shows. And people were highlighting the fact that you couldn't see the live show as live. There's no little dot above my channel saying live, and it's not in the subscriptions feeds. Now, potentially when there's a media event going on, they don't want YouTubers commenting on it in the way they don't want it necessarily commenting on. So I suspect for that reason, people who are suspected that they might say things they don't like in the moment when there's zero control over what you say live. So right here, right now, to the 130 people, I can literally say anything. There's nobody with a gun to my head or telling me I shouldn't say a particular thing. Now, fortunately, I know the guidelines well enough to know what isn't tolerated by YouTube. But by the same token, there's plenty of people in the same arena as we are considered being in who definitely don't read the guidelines and will say things all the time that will get their channel shut down. But the last thing they need, from what I've seen from past experience, is people fiddling with stuff in the moment while whatever magic trick's being performed. While the rabbit's actually being pulled out of the hat, they don't want anybody in the audience saying, the rabbit's in the table. They don't want that. So that's why I think this is the case currently. Hopefully it will return to normal in however long normalcy is claimed to be returning to in.
Yeah, you're right, because there was a point where I could see there would be a little red dot by your page, and your video, if you were live, would be the first one to pop up as soon as I hit subscriptions, and that stopped for a while. So yeah, I get it now.
It wasn't even live on your main channel. I pulled up both channels. I hit videos, right? Nothing on the main channel, and I knew you told me you were going over to the other one, so I pulled that one up, and it was still not premiering, but waiting.
Yeah, there's a lot of you know, there's an off button been flicked somewhere, as I say, and you know, I've just got to adapt. This isn't the worst thing I've dealt with in my career on YouTube. Far from it. This is a minor inconvenience, and I've reacted as I've reacted, and hopefully it'll still reach the majority of my audience, which is all I can ask for. But I do mind, but I don't mind adapting. It's just one of those things that you've got to do if you want to have any success on YouTube. If you don't take it seriously, you won't care. If you do take it seriously, you'll pay close attention to what's going on with the statistics and go, that doesn't look right. I better do something about that. And that's hopefully what will be achieved later on. I'll find out within 2 or 3 days. I'll have a good or reasonable handle on how effective my measures have been. You know, till then, watch this space. I'll let you know. Interesting. What comes to mind was an Orthodox talking to us about censorship, and he was saying they're not stopping you going live, and we detailed, well, what about all these other measures that have taken to prevent us from live streaming? Is that Sleeping Warrior that's just joined?
Yes.
Hello, good to have you. And we detailed, hey. We detailed with Unorthodox all the other measures, but the one thing that he was like, well, no, unless they're doing this particular severe measure of censorship, I won't take it seriously. It's like, I wonder if any of those people will now move the goalposts a little bit wider and say, yeah, but you are still capable of actually live streaming, even though you're not reaching even your own subscribers, or not, not overtly promoted to any of the people who actually want to be promoted to. That probably won't be enough either. It's like, no, unless you're physically not permitted to go live at all. What's cooking, Sleeping Warrior?
I've got a request for our fellow flat earthers. Just present my screen if you would.
You're on.
Okay, so this channel, Michael Van Beezen, he's a really well-spoken guy. He's polite. He's into real physics, or he at least presents that he's into real physics, and his videos are pretty comprehensive. You can learn about how pulleys work and how gravity works. Gravity? Whoa, what are you talking about? So what I've done is I've gone to his most recent video because I wanted to ask him because it's really difficult to get people that are popular or famous or physicists to respond. For example, I've had a comment from what's his name? I can't remember his name now off the top of my head. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is, I've gone to Michael Van Beezen's channel, Walter Lewin, and I've asked him about gas pressure in a vacuum without a container. And the answer he gave was that it's basically a malformed question. Can you please elaborate? So, I mean, I gave it as clear as I could give it. How do you have gas pressure without a container in a vacuum, right? And he thought that was malformed. And then I gave him a more refined version. I never got a response from him. So I've prodded him and I've not had a response. But Michael Van Beezen's video, his most recent video, it's this one. Oh, hang on, he's done quite a few here, actually. I'm going to have to work out which one it is now. I've asked him, can he explain for me? I'm going to have to do this on the fly because he's done that many videos recently. I'm going to have to find which one is mine. I've asked him to explain how do you have gas pressure without a container. And somebody's given me the answer on his behalf. And then straight away he's responded and said, yes, well, good answer. I'm now going to have to find out which one it is, but I wanted to
Anthony,
request.
Anthony, hang on. Anthony, your mic in Discord is open while you're talking.
You can hold on. That's not an issue. You just turn him down locally on your own Discord 10th. Carry
No,
on.
it's not me.
I've muted it.
Someone else
I've
sent
muted
me
it.
the message.
Okay, so what I'm asking, like our lot to do is this channel, Michael Van Beesen, it's Physics Chapter 67.1, Advanced E&M, Review Vectors 24 of 55, Spherical Coordinates, Watch Out. It was only in the last day or two, 24, so it was yesterday's video. He is active, he puts them on all the time. And I've just asked, can I ask an off-topic question? How are we breathing at all if Earth has gas pressure, but it exists in the vacuum of space but no membrane? And it took a while for him to respond, but when he did get back to me, somebody had already responded. Earth's gravity allows gas to accumulate all around the planet. Michael Van Beesen straight afterwards said, perfect answer, but I saw it straight away when he did respond eventually. So I said, how is it perfect? Current science adopts Einstein's theory of general relativity, where it's clearly defined as an effect of the curvature of space-time, not a force of attraction. Now, I'm passing myself off here as a neutral or a baller. So I've said, I've argued gravity against flat earthers, but I don't have any evidence trumping Einstein and his gravity being an effect. So this guy's responded, and I've not actually read this yet. But what I want to ask our lot to do is go over to his channel, find the video from yesterday that starts off with this title, and just put some kind of commentary on underneath, because I just want to try and get conversation from him, because I want him to address it. I want to know how you can have gas pressure from his perspective, because he thinks gravity is the perfect answer. Well, we all know gravity is not a force, so I'm just trying to get the guy to respond and engage in a dialogue with him if we can, because maybe he'll have a conversation. Science is all about questioning science, right, and validating stuff and seeing if
he's a
stuff
mathematician.
Works.
He's a mathematician. I've run across this bozo. Go ahead and read that, Anthony. I can't see it. His last response.
Well, his last response was perfect answer, but somebody called Casper Ablijag or whatever says...
Oh, I thought it was him. Sorry.
Yeah, look, the current description of gravity is indeed from general relativity, which indeed postulates gravity is more of an effect, but how does that affect anything about how gas is not supposed to be effectively falling towards Earth? It does not.
He's a moron.
Yeah, pressure's a thing, Casper. It
Yeah,
pushes out in all directions.
I was gonna say,
so I just want to try and create some interest on that thread so that he gets attention and he has to start responding, because I can't do it all on my own and he's not responding to me yet, and I just want to try and get an answer off him.
My posts are being deleted from various sites, so the censorship is getting real heavy. I just wanted you to know that. It's been going on for about 4 months.
Yes, same here.
Well, definitely the case that they don't want this Einsteinian gravity being reminded to current physics. So just try and go to his channel and see if you can engage him.
Now think about this.
We are on an educational channel. That is the current pseudoscience. So regardless of whether or not the fundies who we deal with, or in this case, somebody who's a mathematician, whether or not they concern themselves with what is the current pseudoscience is not your concern. You know, you're saying it matter of fact, right? You're right, he's wrong. There is no two ways about that. Gravity is not a force. It's not holding gas. It's not violating the second law of thermodynamics. You know where you're correct, and stand your ground, Anthony. That's it. You're right, he's wrong. Any more for any more?
Yeah, anymore. They're deleting my post. Right? They've been doing it, like I said, for about 4 or 5 months, man. I'll tell you what. About to piss me off. I've spent 21 years in the military fighting against that shit. Right? And somebody's coming by on YouTube deleting my shit. Almost because you're...
Go on, Kiwi.
I'll share my pain otherwhere.
Fair enough. With that, I'm going to say to all of you watching on the Nathan Oakley live stream, or I should say as a cue to those of you watching on the Nathan Oakley 1980 channel, this bit is live. So if you did want to watch these shows live, you need to subscribe to the Nathan Oakley channel. Link will be in the comments and info box below this video. As I say, if you're watching on Nathan Oakley channel live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. If you're watching on Nathan Oakley 1980, stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Did any of you catch my top 3?
Nah, I didn't catch it yet.
Only a couple of minutes long. You were here when we did it, so it's not like you need to, keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate or anything.
That was with the theme song. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, that's
is that from an actual show or something?
Yeah, it's from the charts on the radio back in the day. I think it's from the 70s, maybe early 80s.
I was going to say to QE before the show ended, that's because he's over the target and they have to delete his comments.
He's not doing anything wrong. That's the bit that annoys me, and I completely understand your sentiments when you're saying, that's the kind of thing that you'd fight to protect. You're not speculating in your comment. I've read your comments. I've got a lot of them stored, like screen capped and copied into my notes, and they're all matter of fact, cited too, with sources and links to be verified in terms of what you're quoting, with quotation marks around it, with stuff in bold that makes the point clear. They're carefully formatted comments that you've obviously taken a long time over, so to have them removed it's infuriating, right?
Yep. What are you gonna do, man? That's the state of affairs that we have in this world.
Well, I can lighten up the day here. Nathan, you said earlier something about those who are Adele fans. Well, they would be familiar with the Skyfall argument. It has a specter of knowledge. Gas is unbonded.
That's dire. So terrible. So following on from the pre-show,
oh my god!
So I tested my emulator with GoldenEye because I was so excited to see it because I'd never played it before. So I was like, oh, that's going to be the first thing I do. It was what I wanted to. That was the original thing I wanted to do. I wanted to put GoldenEye cartridge onto the computer. That was the original thing I wanted to do. So it was the last emulator, and you leave the best bit till last, even though it's a pain in the ass and a faff. So I've got GoldenEye on today when the show's over. I get the wife. She's on tenterhooks, I'm sure. She's played it though, so I'm sure she's not as excited as I am. Trying to get my blue tack dot. Put my little blue tack dot on the screen. Can't wait.
Who's MI6? Who's MI7 when you play Paula and Nintendo game?
Don't know. She's Mario and Sonic so far. I just want my kids to play some of the games that I played as a kid. Do you know what I mean? I grew up with a Nintendo. The original
what, like
one.
basketball?
Basketball? Yeah, that's double dribble and things.
Yeah, like basketball and baseball and tennis and football and soccer and those types of things.
Yeah, and video games when it's winter.
We used to take a stick and take a bicycle tire and roll it down the street. That's the game I played when I was a kid.
Yeah, we do all that too. So, at the moment we're growing sunflowers, so each and every day we're going out and watering the sunflowers and basking in the sunshine, looking at the flowers, smelling the new stuff that's coming up. That's what we do in spring. So, it's not like I don't go out and do things. We went to the park, ran around, did scooter. Anyway, all those sorts of physical activities I'm fully immersed in anyway. But by the same token, each and every winter, the activity count gets lower and lower and lower. So you need to kind of keep things keep a level of things to keep the kids occupied, or at least that's kind of my intention. So, you know, playing 8-bit video games that I used to love when I was a kid. Same goes for my wife. What's the harm in that? Beats watching news.
Wow. That was a pretty long explanation about an inconsequential event. Nothing wrong there.
Ah, how dare you, inconsequential. I've spent several months researching this emulator, I'll tell you that for nothing.
I had some good GoldenEye tournaments, man. Some Street Fighter tournaments. Come on, man. Good stuff.
I love it. I watch
Don't hate.
GoldenEye speedruns. I love them. Watching them scrape a second off a speedrun. Marvellous. EDM?
Do you know what I'm doing right now? I don't know if you can hear the scratching in the background. Can you hear it?
No, till you pointed out and got whatever you were scratching close to the mic. But go ahead.
I'm polishing some metal off one of the motorbikes.
Yeah, sorry, photos.
Because I don't need to be sat over Google waiting to like look up research anymore, because nobody ever comes in with anything to support their narrative. I could just sit here and polish up metal.
It's a good point, Anthony. It's a very, very good point.
Really interesting.
What he's saying is he's not going to spend his time dedicated to some troll that's got a gotcha on a comment section or had him over a barrel in a debate. So can you remember back in the day, Anthony, when we were doing the Isle of Man discussion? I can tell you this for nothing. Your and mine and lots of other people's lives were consumed with research at the time. Like, up until 2 a.m, me and Anthony looking at measurements, making Blender models, rendering things, all that crap, because we were dedicated our time to researching problems that had arisen and figure out how things were working. Now, I'm talking about my emulator, Anthony's polishing his missus's bike. You know what I mean?
And this is like, of course, it took us a massive fight over the Isle of Man stuff, and regardless of the outcome of it, all right, we didn't get to see Ireland, but we still shouldn't have seen that island that we were looking at, because that's supposed to be behind the Earth curve. But what we learned was that West's magic calculator assumed that refraction is based on straight lines, even though they're bendy, that they conflate between the two at will, and that basically refraction, they destroy the meaning of the word refraction and apply it no matter how much they need. They just had a bit more refraction on. So we did learn quite a lot about that in terms of how things went. But they don't like us learning about their model because we could then use it against them.
Was that Isle of Man shot Black Swan?
Was it a Black Swan?
Yeah.
No, not really. It was more of an educational journey to try and work out how they were destroying or how they were explaining the unexplainable.
I don't think he means that.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is where, like, the observation, right? Where was it taken from? Like, how high? You remember?
Oh, St. Bees. Oh, well, I just put it based on Google Earth, which said 35. But when we went back to measure it, it was 47 feet. But they still think it was 100 feet. Utter morons.
I just answer his question.
I'm just
yes and no. Right? Yes and no. The one that we argued about the most was a composited image that is not a black swan. The one that was taken late in the game from the beach at St. Bees with Anthony on his belly, a foot, that is a black swan.
Nice.
So the north end of the Isle of Man is a black swan. The rest of it fell almost perfectly within their mathematics. Not perfectly. That's not true. You know, we argued about it within a few degrees of what you could argue as margin of error of what they counted as their refracted values. In other words, when all the mathematics was done, we should have only seen the roof tiles of the lighthouse, and we saw what we could argue was the whole lighthouse. That was the end result of all the mathematics. So it didn't match. It wasn't perfect. But would you call it a black swan? No, I wouldn't have said so. The geometric horizons position was pretty much where it was supposed to be, and there was nothing to demarcate where it was anyway beyond the actual Isle of Man, which is obviously, if they're using it to claim it's a geometric physical obstruction at that point, it's going to match pretty well. But then when you get to the bit where Sly Sparkane's like, you should be on your belly at the beach doing this. Why can't you get lower, get lower, get lower? I mentioned that for a reason. I'll come back to that in a minute. But then Anthony goes down, gets on his belly, sees the north end of the Isle of Man, which shouldn't be there, and suddenly that's a massive problem. Well, because suddenly the geometric horizon should be, if he's at a foot, about a mile away. Well, he's seeing about 34 miles. So, yeah, that's a big problem.
Problems, yeah.
Anyway, at the moment in the comment section, they're saying the opposite, right? They're saying you should go higher. You won't see as much refraction if you go higher. I'm like, what? You won't see as much as the lines deviating from straight if we go up to the top of a mountain. Yeah, but they'll still be deviating from straight, won't they? They won't be geometric. It's still not gonna buy you a win going higher. It's like a game of bloody potluck or whatever they call it. Go higher, go higher. No, lower, lower. This image doesn't match our model. Go higher, go higher.
We do.
Actually,
We don't.
well, actually, Nathan,
That's correct. We don't.
I've been thinking. Okay, I guess I'm not going to say anything. I've been thinking about that because actually, if you go higher, you're looking through more atmosphere.
Yeah, I was
even
just
if it
going to
is
say that.
What?
I was just
What?
going to say that, Paul. Go ahead. Sorry to
Don't
interrupt.
say that.
Yeah, I was just
So don't
going
say
to say
that. But go ahead. Which is it?
Oh, for the love of God, one of you. One of you,
Go
can you stop sucking each other off and just do it?
Go ahead, Paul.
Okay. Well, I'm just the point is, I was saying this: the further the distance, that there is more refractive material to go through. The shorter the distance, it would be less. So if you're I would think that at a lower to the ground, the distance, the so-called horizon should be there because you have less stuff that's being refracted through. That would be my thing. Could be wrong.
Well, you're at the same. Yeah, the density is more or less pretty much the same, right? Now, if you're higher, if you're like up on a mountain and looking down, then you're looking down through how many different layers of density? Would be less or more refraction?
Just get that phraseology down. You're looking through how many layers of assumed density changes based on their 7/6, begging the question on steroids fallacy. So based on their mathematics of these, when it's described by Rumpus, he describes it as infinite layers of glass between you and the observation point. So if you're looking at these, I don't spare laughter. So he's saying that there's lots of different transitions, right? And it's transitioning through a curved rate at 7/6 in a standard instance. Well, if that's the case and you're up high, then you're looking down through a greater degree of those changes at 7/6. I think that's John's point. Whereas Paul's point is that if you're closer to it, you're going to be looking through less atmosphere, or maybe a combination of both between the two of you.
No, I'm not.
Basically, that's what I'm.
Now, the presupposition of 7/6 I'm not using a sphere or anything. I'm just using, as you're looking down through changes in density, because you have changes in density because the air gets a little thinner, right? Then wouldn't you have more refraction?
Yes.
And I agree.
That's
I
what I'm
would
saying.
agree with that. Also, the further the distance, the more temperature variation between you and the observer. So that would also be a factor, not just the density of the atmosphere, but the temperature gradient would change as well.
Yeah, but you'd have to mark along that entire route what temperatures you're saying. If they're at the same elevation, right, then most likely they're not going to be too many temperature variations. Follow?
I don't know, it depends, because one side of a mountain can be a lot cooler than the other side.
Exactly.
On
well, that's
yeah, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about looking over the ocean or looking over a long stretch, right? Flat stretch. There's not going to be too much hanky-panky going on there, right? If it's the same elevation.
I think the easiest way to look at it is look at what happens on Skunk Bay. At the beginning of the day, it's all settled. It's not doing very much. At the end of the day, it's all settled, not doing very much. Around midday, when they're 3 or 4 hours either side of it, it's all over the place. But they claim that the refractive effects are most at the end of the day because the cooling effect, once the sun has moved, creates a warm layer of air above the water and bloody this and bloody that. But if you actually look at Skunk Bay and see what happens at the end of the day, it settles back down and it doesn't do what they say it does.
Sure, but in conclusion, right, point one, Anthony's point, there is always refraction in the air. The light isn't travelling perfectly straight. It's going to deviate at some point to some degree. At all points in the day, it's variable. That's the first point. The second point is if you go higher, which is the start of this, is me pointing out that somebody in the comments is saying, no, you should go higher to decrease the refractive effects. And Quantum Eraser's point is to say that, no, if you go higher, you're going to be in the thinner air, therefore going through different transition layers, if you will, of something that will cause more refraction. Therefore, going up higher isn't going to give you less refraction, it's going to give you more.
I'll give a personal account to QE's temperature over the ocean. Over the distance that we're talking about, say at the 1 foot observer, right, we're looking at 1.23 miles, right, for the horizon at 1 foot observer level. So if you're on the boat like I was, going over the ocean, say I was 8 to 9 feet above the water. Well, not even that much, probably 6 feet above the water. I would be going for miles and the temperature was the same. All of a sudden, I'd hit a colder bank of air. But unless I'm right next to it, it took miles to sense any temperature difference.
Now, it's just generally speaking. You're going to have days where that's not the case. I'm just speaking in general here. That's all. Nothing specific. Okay?
Well, yeah, but specifically, at any point, at any day, you're never going to be able to derive geometry.
Well, and also the angle of incidence too at a higher elevation too. So if you're at the ground level, your angle of incidence is less, right? If you're closer to the ground.
If you assumed no atmosphere as they're telling us to do currently, then you could technically still draw a physical tangent line to a physical sphere edge if there was one. Depending on height, would that make any difference if you sucked out all the atmosphere, as they argue?
And remember what I said too. It was from a high elevation, looking down, not looking straight, looking down. Thanks.
Well, presuming that you can see a horizon, you've then got to be on the assumption that the horizon does actually have a dip angle to measure, because there's going to be certain, presumably, I don't know this for a fact, but there's going to be certain circumstances where there isn't one, right? In other words, you're up on a high mountain and you get the equivalent of a black swan, a very, very, very large distance that just happens to be extremely clear on a given day, and you can see the horizon a lot further, effectively raising it up. And therefore, there might be a certain circumstances where there is no dip to measure. So you're correct in terms of you're describing it on their Muppet Vision representation that you put in your presentations. You've got Al Biruni up on the mountain, H, and he's looking down at the physical geometric sphere edge horizon that they assume in their model, and then drawing a tangent.
They say that the dip angle is caused by the curvature of the Earth plus refraction, but in real world, the dip angle is caused by how far you can see. If you can see 5 miles, the horizon's quite close to you. If you can see 25 miles, it's somewhere in the middle. If you can see 100 miles because you're up in a plane, then the visibility is increased and the dip angle is lifted accordingly. But obviously, if you're up in a plane and you can only see like 20 miles because the visibility is rubbish, that dip angle is going to be severe, and you're going to think we're on the size of Pluto. So they say the dip angle is caused by Earth curve plus refraction, and on our model, the alternative explanation would be it's simply caused by visibility.
Well, the explanation isn't required, although I do appreciate it, because the point here is you can't derive the geometry. That's the bottom line. They don't need to provide any explanation. The physical geometry that they hang their hats on and claim we're standing on, Anthony, that geometry.
But they have to assume that it's geometric.
Well, they have to make a lot of assumptions, but my point is they can't derive it in this manner.
But they can assume that it's geometric when they're saying for the past 3 months that it's refracted. Right?
It's essentially flattening out the curve.
No. The opposite. They're using our argument. If they require a geometric horizon, and a horizon is, let's just assume so we don't segue, that a horizon is the point where the land or sea appears to meet the sky. Appears meaning you can see it. Well, if their horizon is physical and geometric a la their model, and they currently tell us it's refracted, it's not the one in the model.
Yeah, but they're adopting refraction as part of their model.
No, when talking about the singular horizon, their horizon is geometric, and can only be geometric, because
no, they don't agree with that, Nathan. They say their horizon is geometric plus refraction.
Right. So I'll take you through it like I took Brenda through it. So you're saying we have a geometric horizon, and save us the time, it's the horizon we would see if you sucked out all the atmosphere? Yeah. And the horizon we actually see is based upon that horizon, moved into a second apparent location, correct? So not the position of the geometric horizon, but a second refracted position that we actually see. So we're still only seeing one. It's a refracted version of the geometric horizon, correct?
Sorry, I just had to remind somebody of a time limit. What was the last question you asked, Nathan?
So if it's a second horizon that's refracted, i.e. the one singular that we see isn't the geometric horizon, but it's based upon it, but it's in a refracted position. So we still only have to see one, but the one we see is a refracted horizon based upon where the geometric horizon would be if there was no atmosphere, correct?
Yeah.
So therefore, we've got a apparent, I hate to say this word because it's redundant, but nevertheless, we've got an apparent horizon and who's making that noise? And a geometric horizon. The one in the model, the one that it's based on. So that would be one geometric horizon and one apparent, in quotations, horizon. That would be two horizons, Anthony. Would it not?
It must have been his phone.
That was Anthony's phone.
Yeah. Comments are for him. Yeah, that's two.
At least it's not Command and Conquer. When it's something much more critical than this, and it's Quantum Eraser trying to detail something that takes 10 minutes, and then at the end, there's a prolonged stony silence, and then Anthony comes back and says, just say the last little bit.
Yeah.
Hey, can I jump in here until he gets back about dip correction and the use of a sextant as far as my understanding goes on that, Nathan?
Only
better close your ears, ballers.
Okay, the D or the dip correction is by the book that you have to go to and make the correction. So I'll just read just a little paragraph here. If you're taking your sextant readings from the bridge of a big ship, then you're going to get a different sextant reading to if you are on a small yacht. Therefore, we need to make a correction to what your sextant says. To get your reading converted to sea level reading. See, in the sextant, the dip correction is to get you to zero on the right angle so that your horizon is at zero and your luminary, whether it's a star, the sun, or the moon, that might be somewhere from directly above you, which would be your zenith, or somewhere in between. But it is to make the dip correction if you're on top of a big bridge on the big ship or a small yacht to zero sea level. So if I'm on a small yacht and I know prior to casting off of my dock that where I'm going to do my sextant reading, I'm exactly 9 feet above the water, then at sea, at that time of reading, I'm going to know to minus 9 feet in the book and make the corrections so that it reads to sea level, not a curve, not for the curve of the earth that does exist, but the horizon that's at sea level, which your sextant cannot work without. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Done a whole bunch of research on sextants recently. Have you managed to locate one that you're going to buy?
I saw one on eBay. It's like an $800 one. He had it for $450. I haven't revisited the site, but I'd like to get a metal one because they're more accurate versus the plastic ones. Plastic ones you pick up for a couple of $100, but the metal ones, based on my research, there's Navy sextant operators who have retired that are claiming that they've gotten within 1 nautical mile of their target because they use a very high caliber sextant. So I'd rather get a good one, but not yet.
Make sure it's got a calibration certificate with it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, the German ones have the best ones. The German-made ones are real good.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
This whole refracted horizon that they're falling back to, numpties. Say bye-bye to a sextant.
Was it intentional when you put in the explanations for what an actual horizon effect would be if described as being refracted? When you did that, was it to trap them into digging their own grave or tightening their own noose, in the respect that they've then got to argue for it being a non-geometric horizon to have that argument? Is that why you slipped that in, just with greater foresight than I could have anticipated you having?
I plead the fifth.
You plead the fifth? Oh, okay. Fair enough. We are recording. I'm going to grill you on that, just so you know. You're a smart man. Credit where credit's due. You know, it was a beautifully formulated argument, and it wasn't just the modus tollens. The argument's far more wide, far more all-encompassing than that in terms of when you study what you actually produced. It wasn't just the modus tollens. There was far more intricacies that start to become elucidated, is that the correct word, to me. I see, now I understand why that bit was insisted upon, when I was like, no, that's not necessary. And, you know, with a very telling, no, not even with a telling grin, with an insistent tone, no, that bit is important. In this instance, the refractive effects and getting them to actually detail them. Why was that so critical? Well, now I know. It's ace. Just kudos, just giving you props, basically.
Hey, Nathan, I put that little excerpt on Master B if you want to post it.
Sure. You want to read it again? Don't have to.
You can. Yeah, I could. Hold on. Do it.
On screen.
Not on mine. Here, let me get to it. I got it right here, though. If you're taking your sextant readings from the bridge of a big ship, then you're going to get a different sextant reading to if you were on a small yacht. Therefore, we need to make a correction to what your sextant says to get your reading converted to sea level reading. This is called dip, or an adjustment for your height of eye. That's the real dip that you've got to fix, not the horizon dipping. It's you and your height to sea level.
Thank you very much.
They're so dead. Every turn. That's a flamethrower, man. It's beautiful.
Nathan, did you say that we were now no longer recording?
No, we are recording.
Here comes Anthony back thinking the show's over.
It's just I just got some things to say that I want not recorded. That's all.
God, you guys love killing the end of the show, don't you?
Yeah.
So
at the end of the show, change the subject real quick.
So back to those two horizons.
We all
that you
know
didn't...
what this is about.
Go on, Owen.
Starts with an R and ends with an Y.
No, he's gonna go. Oh God.
No, it's got nothing to do with R ending in Y. It starts with F ending in E.
Oh, okay. Oh, that at least sounds more amusing.
That E ended yesterday.
How about if we start with P and end in N?
I've no idea what this is all about. Can we keep it relevant to an audience? Is that possible? Oh, God. Can we just stop spouting letters? Is that possible? So,
I could change the subject.
I was hoping to get
you were
Anthony
talking about
to
earlier.
I was hoping to get Anthony to actually concede his point that he disappeared like a globe head in the middle of my conclusion.
Oh, that's right. Okay, go ahead and let me get to mine after you're done. Go ahead. You're right.
Okay, hold that thought though. Make sure you remember what you're going to say, Anthony. So when you described a refracted horizon, so you've got a geometric horizon that would only be visible if the atmosphere is removed, but the one that we actually see is based on that position but refracted into a different position that we actually see, and we're going to call that, for this description's explanation, the apparent horizon. Correct?
Yes.
So far.
Yes.
So therefore we've got two horizons. A geometric horizon, the one that's marked with the next labelled horizon in the model, and an apparent, in quotes, horizon. That's one apparent and one geometric. Well, that's two horizons, Anthony.
That's where they disagree. They don't say there's two. It's because they say that the apparent horizon is the geometric horizon being not physically, optically moved because of refraction, but there's not two. It's the same one that's always there. It's just changing.
Yeah, I went through that in my preamble, but you were on a phone call. Yes, so they say, I know what they say. They say that one horizon is geometric, and then that horizon is invisible, we don't see it. It's refracted into a position that we do see. But let's count them, Anthony. Right? So there's one horizon that we see. That would be the apparent horizon. So have you got your fingers up? Put your thumb up.
One.
That's one. And then there's one that we don't see marked with an X labelled horizon in the model. So that's one apparent and one that we don't see geometric. That would be, hold on, one and one, two horizons, Anthony.
No, that's not what they're saying.
I know.
If you look at Skunk Bay, you'll watch the horizon moves up and down. Now they're saying when it's moving up and down, it's also moving distance away from you at the same time. And I laugh at them. But they're saying that one horizon is the same horizon, but because of the effects of refraction, it changes its position vertically, but also as a function of depth or distance. So it's the same horizon as the geometric one. You're looking at the same horizon, but because light's being bent around the back of the Earth, it's allowing you to see that horizon further back. That's what their position is.
I understand their position. So their position is the horizon we see isn't the geometric horizon. It's refracted into a right. So it isn't the geometric horizon marked with an X in the model, correct?
No.
That would be a second horizon then, because it's not that one. You've just gone out of your way to explain how it's not that one in the model, correct?
Correct.
So there's a second one that is in the model, correct?
No, they would say that it's the refracted horizon is the one horizon.
And therefore, the one horizon is not the geometric one horizon in their model then, Anthony. Ergo, they're arguing for it not being a second one because we've only got one. Welcome to Flat Earth then.
Well, maybe it gets actually even weirder. Maybe they're just saying that the apparent horizon is really the geometrical horizon. It just doesn't really look like it's on a ball.
Yeah, it looks like.
Hold on, Arwin. The geometric horizon is fixed. It's unchanging. It's based on physicality. Now, the moment you declare that it's moving, it's no longer geometric. Now, that's not to say that there isn't a geometric horizon still in existence in a model that's side on and isn't reality. That's still marked with an X in a geometric model and labelled horizon in that model. That horizon still exists in the model only. But the horizon we see, as they're all telling us, well, it moves with the weather. It's optics, right? Like we used to argue in the Isle of Man when they were telling us, no, it's geometry. Well, no, it's not geometry. According to them, it's optics. Therefore, not the second horizon because we don't have two. Oh, we've only got one. It's just not geometric. So they're fighting their own fight for us, telling us how non-geometric it is, Anthony.
Yep. Well, they did definitely start out with the claim that it is geometric, but yeah, that didn't work out. But I think they're just now kind of moving back and just saying, nah, it is kind of geometric, but yeah, it doesn't work out visually with what we would expect if everything were more direct. And they're just saying, no, it's all so surreal now. The visuals are so warped because of whatever bendy refraction nonsense that yeah, even though it looks perfectly flat, that horizon there is also the geometric horizon. It's just not visually in the place where it's supposed to be.
Then it's not geometric. So, Anthony, get the last word because I want Quantum Eraser's point to not get forgotten about.
Although I agree with you, the bit that we disagree on, not me and you, but the two arguments, is that whilst I can agree that's your position, and I agree with that position, they will never, ever, ever agree with that position. That's the point.
That's fine. The fundamentalists who you're describing will never agree with me when I'm pointing out that we only have one horizon, regardless of them telling us we only have one horizon and them telling us that the refracted position isn't the geometric horizon, but it is based on a geometric second position that we don't have because we only have one. They're fundamentalists. They're arguing themselves into a grave. And you're saying, well, yeah, but they're arguing themselves in circles over here. They're not just conceding that we don't have a geometric horizon. They're saying we don't have a geometric horizon. It is a geometric horizon. It's refracted, therefore not possible to being geometric. But we do have one. It's refracted, but we don't have a second one. The one in the model is the one we've got. It's just yeah, leave them to it. Let them go nuts on their own time. You know what I mean?
Betting it.
You can
anyway.
tell it's curved because it looks so flat.
Right. Quantum Eraser. You're still there. Got 5 minutes tops.
Yeah, who is the numpty Burke that they said they distanced the horizon by radar?
Unorthodox.
We sure it's unorthodox? Is he around?
You in here, 50?
50. I'm looking. 1 second.
No, he's not in Discord.
You numpty Burks, whoever said that, I want you to come on this show and I want you to demonstrate that utter lunacy, right? You just make shit up on the fly, right? Are you retarded? I want to see this. I want to see that angle incidence on that from that radar, and I want to get a bounce back off the horizon. And is that bounce back, is the radar reflecting off a refracted horizon? That's question number 2. I want to see that. Thanks.
Was there a third question?
Nah, just 2.
Well, radar can't possibly be the answer because we know that Marconi basically used radio waves to send a transmission across the Atlantic. So if Marconi did that with radio waves, how would you get a radar pulse back?
It just bounces back in an R-based fashion around the curve.
Right, that's going to be our roundup. So with that, I'll say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making this after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in the Nathan Oakley 1980 premiering stream for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, hitting the join button, all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!